All right, man. We have another evening. Man, welcome everybody who joined in Unfiltered Kings podcast when we're coming at you again. The podcast where we try to talk to each other, not at each other as men and women, man. Hopefully we have another great topic for you guys tonight, balancing self-identity with change in a relationship. Should I change? Is too much change a bad thing, a good thing? We're going to try to delve off into it and kind of look at both sides. As always, man, thank you guys for following us on page, Instagram, TikTok. They said you won with us last week. We had breaking news. We are now on Spotify. We're now out there in Amazon Music and iHeartRadio, and we will be coming to Apple Podcasts here in the next coming months. And so definitely UKP is doing some things. So make sure you go follow and listen to us on those platforms and make sure you share it. As always, man, I want to kind of introduce the team. I have Diana. She's part of the team tonight. Of course, I got my man Frankie, and can't forget about my guy Carlos, man. We make up UKP. And so, man, we're just going to kind of jump off into this topic here. Balancing self-identity with change in a relationship. Now, I know we're going to get off into the pros and cons, but what I wanted to do, I just kind of want to go around and just see you guys give your initial thoughts, whether it's from your personal experience or just when you saw this topic. Like, what did you think just initially? What was your thought process when we introduced the topic, balancing self-identity with change in a relationship? Diana.
Oh, I get to go first.
Yeah, the ladies first. We gotta keep it a generous three of us. You know, they already think we tag team on you. You know what I'm saying? Say what you want to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, when I first
keeping us in line, y'all don't understand.
Mm-hmm. No, I really don't. So when I first saw the topic of discussion, which was balancing self-identity with change in a relationship, I first thought that maybe no, you can't necessarily change in a relationship or change your partner in a sense. A lot of times who you see is who you get, right? So when it comes to, I guess, wanting to change your partner, I guess you just kind of got to see where it goes, because essentially I think the first, I don't know, 6 months or so, you're still trying to understand or learn your partner, right? So I guess later on down the line, I think that's where you would be able to kind of see or identify, some things that you may not, I won't say but maybe misunderstand about your partner. So then you'll be able to get a better understanding of your partner. And then that's where the communication will come in for you to kind of decide how you will navigate moving forward, and if changing is really the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I think this is going to be a good conversation, because I think we were talking a couple of podcasts ago when we talked about the 5 stages of relationship grief, where it's so easy just to leave, right? To give up, and we start just recycling people. To make a long story short, like nobody want to work it out, or everybody have a red flag. Well, people are imperfect, right? Like everything can be a red flag if I just don't like it. So I'm hoping that we kind of get some dialogue to kind of quell some of that. It's like, really, do we have conflict resolution, right? Or are we looking for this ideal perfect person? Carlos, what did you thought when you initially saw the topic, balancing self-identity with change in a relationship, just off of GP, based off your experience and what you just initially thought?
I had to take a pause and look at it for a moment, because the first thing came to mind was, I'm not changing. I'm not changing me. So if I change me, that means I'm not being accepted for me. And that was off the initial part, because I mean, once you learn yourself, I took all this time to develop who I am. Now I got to change who I am for somebody. Now, why can't they accept me for me? But like Diana said, it's a balance that should happen though. You should be able to not lose yourself, but at the same time learn to make adjustments where needed without sacrificing yourself completely. And that's on both ends. So it's neither he or she, but it's two people coming together saying, okay, let me know you know me, and then we'll find out what works best for the both of us, the DNA of that relationship. So that kind of got me. But first off, now, why you doing it? Yeah, we're doing it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a little reluctant again.
Say what now?
Okay. Frankie, what about you, man? I said there was a little reluctancy there in the beginning.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah, man. If I said it once, I say it again, man. Change doesn't happen overnight. What Major Payne say? You know, she kept pushing the maybe. Don't push the maybe, baby. You know what I'm saying? Now, you know, change doesn't happen overnight, man, because it takes time. And I'm in agreement with Diana on that note. You know, you can't change everything. Some things can be changed, but it has to be a progression. And figuring out where both of y'all are headed down this path in this relationship. So that's the thing about it. It might take 6 months, it might take longer. You know what I'm saying? But long as you're willing to change certain things, or the understanding that both parties need to change certain things, that'll help your relationship grow and develop. And you could, I guess, what they say, withstand the test of time. Like that, yeah. Just give us a minute. Jay's having some technical problems. Yeah. So bear with us, y'all. UKP family.
You know how it is. We're trying to stop a good thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Always.
I know dealing with this topic, man.
Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Yeah, man, the devil was busy, man. He got some technical difficulties. But the reality of it is, if you guys can still hear me, I got somebody who's working on this for me. The reality is there are pros and cons, right? There's these polarizing feelings, if you will, one way or the other. And hopefully tonight we'll kind of delve into those emotions, those real emotions, right? I think ultimately at the end of the day, the one thing I want to put out there first is the relationship, the priority, long-term relationship, or is our self-individual the priority, right? And can both of those coexist at the same time? Can two things be true at the same time, right? I think initially, a lot of times we get ourselves in trouble by, some things we think it's all or none, right? It's either or. So what I wanted to do is kind of look into a little bit deeper of the pros and cons. And I think tonight, my man Frank is going to take the pros, and we'll kind of delve into that. And then I think Carlos to be delving into some of the disadvantages of changing the relationship, and what Diane and I will try to bring up and kind of bring it all together, so to speak. So that means, okay, there are times where we should change for a relationship. Frankie, what's a positive, man?
The positive, man, the relationship grows, man, and it helps you. Well, it helps the couple understand each other. You know what I'm saying? With good change comes growth, and that's a good thing. Sometimes you have to get out your way. Now, I ain't saying like change, everything about you, but when you're in a relationship, man, it's compromise. You're gonna have to change something, and that's for both parties. That's for husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, so on and so on. Some things you will have to change in order to make the relationship healthy and grow. It's just one of those things. It could be like I always bring it up all the time. Like it could be like budgeting. Like I might be a big spender, you know what I'm saying, and my girl is frugal, and then we looking on down the line like, man, like we always struggling to pay these bills. And I don't know why we struggling this, that, and the other way. And then she look at me like, and then I start looking at my bank. Okay, yeah, maybe I can't buy these shoes this week, or maybe I can't get that that game I want, or maybe she can't get the jewelry she wanted, or the perfume she wanted, or the bag she wanted. You have to vote. Those are the things that promote. I would say that would be like healthy changes, figuring out where each party can budget and help move the relationship to those type of levels, or like we spoke about. I want to say last week, being able to communicate better with our emotions. Maybe the man is stoic and as James say, shorthanded with the conversation. Such as like I'm good, instead of like really telling what's happening with the day. That man was like, well, let me open up a little bit more to my wife. You know what I'm saying, or my girl. Yeah. And really tell her like, I had a good day at the job. I ended up getting a raise. They gave me a better office this way. This happened and this happened. So those what I think are a good pros of change, man.
Okay, so let's just dive into that one at first. It complements you all from what I'm hearing, and you gave the example of finances, right? You gain that compliment of each other. One person's strength could be another person's weakness, right? And so if we can collaborate that more, and I know that's one great example, right? They always say faith, family, friends, and finances are the make or breaks in relationships. And I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We bring in that single mind that works all the time, been working for me. And I think one of y'all said it earlier, we kind of impose on the person to have to, this way works, right? Well, that way works for them. And so there's never a conversation of, man, take a little bit of how you finance and how you built it and own. Have anybody had any experience or kind of elaborate on that? Because I think that's a good one, right? Like instead of coming in with that single mind frame, well, this works for me. Well, it could be a better opportunity out there how y'all can coexist together financially.
I'll give an example. Coming from a background, I'm actually divorced. This is my second marriage. My first marriage, I was the sole provider. I provided everything. So pretty much there was nothing for myself. I paid and took care of everything, which I thought was what a man's supposed to do from what I learned around me and my background and some of the theology I knew. It wasn't until I met my current wife that I started realizing that there should be a balance in between two. And I'm like, well, a man's supposed to do this. He said, what good is doing that when you have nothing else? And I didn't think about that. She says, what good is paying the rent, light bill, and then you ain't got no money for gas? So how you going to get to work? So then what it caused me to do was to slow down and think like, okay, I had to stop and take a look at myself and say, you know what, maybe it's okay to change this piece of it because it looks like it makes sense. So then after talking it through, which is communication is the main thing. Talking it through, I started realizing, okay, it's okay because she's in it with me, not me by myself making and being a sole supporter. She's in it with me. And after a while, I started realizing, oh, this works better. My stress levels went down, blood pressure went down, and I began to be able to do things and enjoy life a whole lot better. So having that piece of me that said, okay, it's okay to go ahead and share right here. It's okay to let this go. And then after a while, before you know it, life just was totally different. And I'm still reaping the benefits of that stuff now. So I believe that once you start that, it's a lifelong process to the end. So that was my experience.
Yeah. I think that's a great one, and learn that balance of areas of opportunity, instead of, hey, it doesn't work or just kind of throwing it away. Finances is a big part of it, right? But I think, a lot of times I think it goes wrong how we approach it. And that's probably a conversation for another day. And so definitely, I think that's a benefit. Changing, hey, what works for us, right? I'm not single anymore, but what works for me? So
And you right.
I think that's a good one. What is our area, man, where it's not good? What is an area where it's not good?
Okay. Well, one of the areas that we look at is in self-identity. You have to be careful with that. Self-identity is basically the unique characters or traits that make up who you are and what you are. It could be your theology, your race, your culture, whatever that makes you and make you unique. What you have to be careful with is that when you begin to change, you got to understand that what parts of you that you need to make sure that stays intact and that you move over. So what happens is you tend to lose the definition of who you are. So a good example was there was a gentleman named Raj. Raj's culture, once a year, the wife's family will come and host a big dinner. Now, Raj was married to Sarah, and this was Sarah's first time hearing that. And she kind of was a little uncomfortable with it. But Raj was like, well, this is something done. We want to just host a dinner and we'll come together and do it. Sarah didn't like it. Sarah was like, I shouldn't have to do this. If you really care about me, then you wouldn't make me do this. So Raj was trying to explain to her and say, no, it's not what you're thinking. It's not that you have to host the whole thing. What I'm trying to show you is that the wife's family normally host it, but the families come together, which helps build family relationships. But she was looking at Raj's culture saying, you need to change, Raj. You got to stop that. And this is something that's been in his life that's been a tradition. So she was wanting him to change the definition of who he is to benefit her, to make herself feel better. And I'm like, okay, I get that. That change is not a good change. That's where the communication piece come in. So you have to be very clear to know that when changing, what needs to be changed, what about yourself needs to change, or just have the conversation saying, this is me, this is you, like Diana alluded to, getting to know the person. And it doesn't happen overnight, like Frankie said. Sometimes years, months, sometimes I know people be together almost 8 or 9 years before they decide to tie the knot. So you've got to be very careful with changing who you are and what you are and the things about you that make you. You have demographics, people from different regions who have lifestyles and cultures and habits. You have people from different races, culture. You have people who have different religious beliefs. And you have people sometimes who just come accustomed to a way of life that defines them and who they are. Because you have to remember the definition of self-identity is the recognition of one's potential and qualities of that individual that specifically relates to them. So you got to be careful with changing who you are in certain parts of who you are, because then you are not being healthy or being good for either one of the partners.
Yeah.
So that's one of the cons.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one. The loss of identity, right? Because a lot of times when you get into certain relationships, I think the beginning process is like trying to get to know one another, trying to figure each other out, and likes, dislikes, all those things are supposed to be a part of that. Religious background, cultures, all those things that you should be communicating about, finance, all of that. You hope and pray that in the beginning all those things are talked about, and then later on down the line you find out your partner is horrible at finances, the credit is terrible, they worship the devil, I don't know, something crazy, you get what I'm saying? It's
deal breaker.
so you're like, because like in the beginning, everything's like, Brett, okay, all right, maybe they don't worship the devil. I'm just saying it could be some extreme stuff happening,
I get what you're saying.
In the beginning, God created. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's called that honeymoon phase, man.
No, seriously, yeah. It's like everything is amazing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the part of the identity piece that I think you lose in it is when you find out all those things, and now you're trying to shrink yourself to become what your partner is has made an expectation of who you are based off of who they met in the beginning, and they're hoping that throughout the whole scenario you just kind of stay that person. You know what I'm saying? But then you start altering certain things about yourself, and your partner may do something different, and then you start to lose yourself in your partner. So that is definitely a beautiful example of self-identity and actually losing it. So thank you for that, Carlos.
Yeah. Now I will say this, and I would probably add that as a con too. The fact that let's just be honest, both parties probably go into this relationship not thinking they need to change each other or change themselves.
Right.
And that what causes the problem. Because guess what? You by yourself, you ain't got to change.
Yeah, you want to answer to.
But you're forgetting you're trying to be in a relationship.
Right.
So things that you're normally used to, guess what? You're not going to be used to that. And that's we could equate that to the spending habit. Yeah, when you was by yourself, oh man, I could do this, I could do that. I can do this. Yeah, right there. There you go.
Every month.
Fall out like a mug, man. Shoot. But now you have a wife. You have kids.
No Jordans.
Yeah. You got to sacrifice that. And it might come in you might have to bump your head a little hard to realize that. But once you realize it, like, dang, I can't get them 12s next week. But it's like that, man. So I think that'll be a con too, because you're not realizing, like, hey, at some point I can't do the things I used to because guess what? I'm with this person.
Right.
So with that being said, that made me think of a topic that we'll probably delve in later on the podcast, the difference between courting and dating. I want to go back to something Diana said, like, well, you don't know the signs, you don't see the signs. And sometimes, some people are a hell of a chameleon, right? Man. But I think it begs a question, do we really vet people anymore? Like, do we get caught up in the, you know what I mean? Do we get caught up in the good or have the expectation in the beginning? Or do we give that trial and error until we figure it out? You see what I'm saying?
I think it depends. The whole vetting process, I believe at one point, yes, I think people did vet, right? Yeah. Because there was a time where you could, I guess, take your time, right? Slow dating in a sense, or slow courting stages where you kind of like becomes friends first, and you kind of get to know them on a friendly level. And you're like, and once that level gets to a different level, you're like, all right, yeah, we're cool. You can be my friend. You know what I'm saying? Whereas there's other levels where people are like pushing this notion of like, by this age, I got to have this age, I got to have that, and blase. And then they're just like speeding into certain scenarios and ending up with, Jekyll and Hyde. And then the vetting process is not a thing because they're trying to hit a check in the box or I don't know what the other word is for it, but they're just trying to check off stuff that, they're like, all right, I'm 20. Yep. Married.
They want to stay focused on that list. They want to stay focused on that list.
Yeah. So, and then at some point they're like, oh man. I mean, after everything's happened, they're married, had like 3 kids. I don't know. I'm extreme with it, but and now they're like, wait, I really don't like you.
8 years in.
I think you said something that was. I think you said something that was important, is that check off the box list. Yeah. Like sometimes I wonder, do we really get back to the basics, or do we just have this ideal how it's supposed to look, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the part I get into to where it's like, are you giving your mate a fair chance?
Yeah.
Right? Because what we're talking about in the background, just recycling people. Like, well, we first got to learn this, then we got to, kind of go through our hiccups and whatnot. I think it's just too easy to put everybody, oh, you're the bad person or what. Now, some of them things is going to be obvious, right? Like if you really checking for a person, but that taking the time out to make sure are we growing properly. That's what I'm talking about. So when we're talking about identifying where those changes from, I don't want to lose who I am, right?
Yeah.
That's who you say you want to be with. That's who you say you cut for. So if I change that, we definitely going to have some problems, right? But I think within that self-identity, I got to be honest with myself too, right? Hey, I'm dealing with an imperfect human being, right? Even like Frankie said, okay, let's just say the pros is finances, right? But at the same point in time, I should have some identity of working with finances in a positive way also, right? So I kind of think it kind of gets back to what we always talk about, that self-assurance. Let's get into another positive reason, Frankie. If you could give us another positive reason when it's good to change in a relationship, and then we'll kind of get into that.
Yeah, man, understanding is a good pro. It helps with said growth. Once you two are able to display empathy towards each other, that will again grow the relationship tremendously, man. This is not changing you, and I think that's where we're getting a hang up on is I don't want to change myself. I don't want to change myself. No, you ain't got to change yourself, but you do have to realize when to show or display, as we always talk about, emotional intelligence. And that's the thing. So understanding and empathy is a definite pro of having to change in relationship.
Man, I think that one's huge, bro, because it's like, if you're not doing what I'm doing what I like and have what I want to have, it's like you're a bad person. It's like it's no truly understanding another person, right? Like, how do we know, for example, what if my strength can complement your weakness, right? Your area of opportunity, right? What if you just never been around someone like you want to learn? Like Frank said, there's no understanding. It's like, I want the fixed puzzle right now. I don't want to go through the trouble of putting the pieces together. It's like, well, until you just get someone to fake it to make it or run into Jesus Christ himself, you're probably not going to find that, right? And so I definitely think that's a huge opportunity when I think change is actually good. Hey, I get to understand myself better. Like if I'm with a female and she can point out, James, you can do that better. Well, that's a good thing, right? I'm not knocking that. I'm going to change that, right? Like she don't have to force me to change that. I'm going to change that for the better. And I think a lot of time these days, man, we underestimate relationships being almost like a life coach. Like, you make my life better. Right. Sometimes we're so we don't even benefit from that aspect of the relationship. So definitely that understand. And then I also think that empathy, I think that one goes truly hidden. Because have you ever been in a relationship or a relationship when they do something wrong, quickly understand, hey, let's get over it. When you do something wrong, it's the end of the world. Like you don't committed all commandments and everything. Where's the empathy? There we go. Quickly throw it away, right? Hey, you cross that line, or that's a red flag. How many lines you got? You know what I mean? How many red flags is there, right? There has to be some empathy, right? That 20%, that imperfect human being, they're gonna fail at some point in time. And I think, like Frankie said, that's when it's good where you change and say, let me get more understanding. Right?
When they do,
if that was anybody else,
like
I probably wouldn't have had this patient. Yeah. But you never allow yourself to grow either, right? And kind of like we talked about before, you just start recycling people, and when you run into that issue, it's always the other person, right? You never take a chance to look at yourself. So definitely understanding the empathy, I completely feel is something good. Danny, you got something?
Yeah, so with the understanding and the empathy scenario, a part of it too is a lack of accountability, right? So when it comes to changing, right, in a positive way with the understanding and having the empathy for a person, a lot of times people don't like to hold themselves accountable or their partner, right? So when it comes to understanding or having empathy for your partner, for example, your partner has a drinking problem, right? And you guys have talked about it on how many ever occasions, right? And you kind of just be like, all right, you know what, I'm just gonna let it go, right? Clearly, I guess whenever you're ready, you're gonna decide that you're gonna stop, overindulging in the scenario. So then life goes on. Your partner is still drinking to the moon, basically, and now you're feeling like, all right, let me say something now, right? But just think about all the time that has passed, right? And you're trying to now hold your partner accountable, for a scenario that you let lapse for I don't know how many weeks, months, years. When you get to that level, the understanding and the empathy is kind of out the window, because it's like you try to communicate about it early on, and hold your partner accountable for whatever, or help them, like, hey babe, go get help, whatever, let's figure this out. And your partner's just like, all right, whatever, this is what I'm gonna do. Either you can like it, or you're just gonna kick rocks. They probably didn't say that, but I'm just making a scenario. And you just let it go. Right. So I guess when it comes to understanding and empathy, where does that fall into play when you have tried to hold your partner accountable, let them know that what they're doing probably isn't the best idea, but at the end of the day, we're all adults here, right? You got to kind of let them, I guess figure it out when they're gonna figure it out. But you let it go on for so long, and you're trying to tell your partner, now, oh, babe, this isn't. We need to figure this out, and they're just like, whatever. Are you still supposed to be understanding and have empathy, in a scenario as such?
So that's a great question, and let me get some feedback, because I want to make sure that people who are viewing get the best information. And let me shout out to JR. I see you following, man. That's my brother from another mother. Brittany Lil says haven't contacted, talk to you in a minute, but I'm glad that you're tuning in and checking us out here. Balancing self-identity with change in a relationship. What we're identifying, when is it some good times to change, and then when is it unhealthy to change, right? And so far, we talked about a pro as being able to change, complement each other, such as finances, right? We can help each other out. We talked about a con and self-identity. No one want to lose themselves for another person. And so now we're on a pro for as understanding and empathy. And I think Diana brought up a huge important piece. What is that balance, right?
Yeah.
And I want to pull some of these concepts how we use in the rest of our lives, right? Our check engine light come off. Do we go buy another car? No, we don't buy another car as soon as that check engine light come off. We monitor it. Go get it checked. In other words, there's a process, right? Yeah. On our job, we don't just get up and walk out, right? There is some type of process. Now, what I always say as a life coach, there are certain things that unequivocally get out, right? When it comes to safety and security, it's time to exit. We don't need a process. We're out. So I want that to be very clear, right? There's no one time, the next time, no, I'm out. But I do think there are some other things that we quickly bail out on that we as human beings now stay in that pocket. I'm the type of person, I believe in 80-20 rule. You're going to get 80% of a person that's just going to be, I can't find them nowhere else. That 20% is going to be what everybody have. We're all imperfect. I do think it's something to be said. Do we learn how to live with each other's 20%? I love the 80, but I think the assumption down that we think we can go get that 80 somewhere else. I think that's really the issue, right? How special is the 80? But if that 80 is just cooking, hanging out, sex, spending money, well, then I can go get that from everybody else. Yeah. But I tell you, if I got someone who listens to me, who checks on me sincerely, checks on my mind, feed my them things, I can't find anyone. I'm holding on. Now, I'm not saying I reserve the right to change your mind later on down the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, just like that car. Go engine light, go check it, man. I can't pay all that time to get a new car. So there are some variations to it, but I think there is something to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Part of being with someone is embracing their 20% also. Because I think the problem is what we get into, to go back to your point, Diana, two things. We're trying to subconsciously make someone perfect the way we want to, the way we were comfortable in our singlehood. Or number two, how can I say this?
Just say it.
It's all about the manipulation. It was never about the person.
At all. That's true.
Right? It's either about the sex, it's about the looks, or it's about what they want from me. So when it's never about the person, then all this goes out the actual window, right? And so I think sometimes we got to ask ourselves, what is our actual why, right? Are we willing to embrace that person's 20%? I think we talked about that one time. When we learning each other, are we talking about the good? Or can I tell you, hey, Dan, I struggle with trust issues. Yeah, I struggle from trust issues with some things coming through my past. So when trust comes up, that don't make me a bad person. Let's work on it. You know, I want to work on so on and so forth. So I definitely think there are some nuance to that. But I think in a world where we throw people away because we haven't really worked on anything.
That's right.
And we want to throw it, we can go find it.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So, but that was a great question, man. Because I could just hear some people that's watching it. Oh, yeah, see, that's that time when so and so. No, they don't mean that. Like sometimes we just got to stand in the pocket and kind of like Frankie said earlier, that builds understanding. Well, who do I have in this person? This is a person that get up and run every time things go bad.
Yeah,
right. Like that's gonna kind of make me apprehensive too. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be very surface level with you. You know, so I think sometimes just staying in that pocket and working some. But again, let's be clear: safety and security. No, there is no justification for that.
Exactly.
You know, and then also if there's a mental illness that is there that I know that then came about or was laying dormant, that I'm not a professional and I can't deal with that. That's not being insensitive, but I think that's a reality because that can lead to some things that we're not in control of, and a lot of time the other person can't even control either. So, but great conversation. Man, we're gonna continue to try to look at the pros and cons here. So I think we got a pro. Carlos, let's go back again. What's something when it's not good to change ourselves in the relationship or for the relationship?
Okay, Frankie just hit it with an understanding. That was a great one too. But if you look at this one, which is to me almost a direct reciprocal of that, is the unrealistic expectations. Walking into a situation with a mindset of someone being a mind reader, someone knowing who you are and what you are based off just meeting on that one time. So the definition of unrealistic expectation is strong belief or hope that something will happen based on the not the actual truth, but the truth within someone else's mind. So a good example, well, not even an example. I want to go back a little bit because that understanding piece was great. If you understand me, that's great. But if you understand me the way I want you to understand me, that's where changing gets bad. How can you know what someone wants if you hadn't really had an opportunity to hear them out or talk about it? So instead, you give an expectation. I like flowers. I like red tulips and green. You should know that. You should know that we never had a conversation about it. Or I heard a young lady say this. On Valentine's Day, I like a room with rose petals across the floor and chocolates and what she say and a jacuzzi spa for the weekend. And the guy said, I just met you yesterday. And she just kind of looked like, you should know this. And he's like, I don't know you. So an expectation was given for something that wasn't even fully established yet. So you got to be careful when wanting to make change, because when you make those changes off something that you do not fully know, it's really unrealistic. You're not giving that partner the opportunity. You're not giving the chance or the credibility to say that, you know what, I don't even think I can do this. Matter of fact, I think from it was on the Instagram. From the Instagram, they came back a couple of months later and they found the guy, and the guy say after that Instagram, he stopped calling her because he said he came to meet her the first time and she put him on Instagram, put him live, and I was like, wow. So you have to be careful. It's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah,
you have to be careful with that. But the biggest thing about watching, about changing yourself, being careful on it, that con is not knowing truly what the other person is wanting to expect. That what makes it unrealistic. If you don't know them, then why would you change for something you don't fully know? Like Dana said earlier, which kind of hit it right on the head, it takes time. What they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, it wasn't built in 5 years either. So that unrealistic, take that away, because that can destroy a relationship, that could build up hopes and dreams and liabilities that don't even exist, and then you blame the partner for not being able to fulfill something that they were never communicated, never expected, never talked about, or just never really work, or even feasibly possible. I want a Bentley, but I'm not going to ask my wife, say, you know what, you don't give me that Bentley, it's over. No, I ain't getting the Bentley. I better work on this relationship and go and hop in that little GMC Terrain I got out there.
yeah.
But when dealing with that, though, man, what do you guys think? One of the worst things to do is to change for someone and you don't have a healthy, realistic expectation of what to look for. And that's the con I have.
Great con.
So if I'm hearing you, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the unhealthy changes, doing those things that I know I don't like, but I'm just doing them just to keep down the peace, or just to kind of, because I know that person like it, right? And I haven't set peace with, I don't really like it. I just know I can do it just to kind of go along to get along, so to speak.
It goes both ways.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, but let me explain a little bit, because it works both ways. This con works both sides. So as you're talking now, you're talking about one person seeing it one way and another person in another way. If I walk into this situation expecting, like I was talking earlier, I walk into a situation saying I'm paying all the bills. So I expect you to listen to me because I'm paying all the bills. That's me walking in. Or on the flip side of it, if I'm taking care of the baby, you should be doing that. So the unrealistic expectation is not necessarily doing it for the person, it's making a change or changing for someone because you feel that expectation is what you're after. I'm gonna get him because he got the bag. So if he got the bag, I know he gonna know I like red Toodles with green ivories. That's not a good reason. It's unrealistic. He doesn't have the opportunity if their communication is not given. Or the same thing with her. Oh, you know what? Let's be real, she got hips, she got thighs, so she's gonna be good in bed. I'm gonna talk to her. So it goes both ways when dealing with people. So it more or less it can be vice versa, if that helps explain it.
So I think you had a point when you're talking about setting those the change of just doing it just to do it, because I think you're more comfortable being yourself, right? I don't care what it is. So even if I learn how to do something over a period of time, I'm gonna stop doing it, right? Because I'm not gonna be comfortable doing that, right?
Yeah.
But then what I've done, I've set an unfair expectation of my mate, where they're looking for that, or thinking that I like doing that, and now there's a problem. So I do think that's an unhealthy means of change, because it's fake, right? Like I'm being fake to my mate. I think it's better to have the conversation. Hey, I can't do that. Hey, no, I don't like that, right? Like I smoke cigars, and so hey, that could be a deal breaker with someone. So for me to try to hide that and whatnot, and then all of a sudden my mate catches a cigar or cigar smoke, well, I changed by manipulating, right? Instead of just being fair and in the open, hey, this is what I do, or you're gonna rock with it. So I think that gets back to just communicating, right?
Yeah.
Like even with that change, to me, I'll go a step further. No, that's lying, right? Yeah. So but I do think we sometimes justify that as change. Well, I won't do it around them, or I won't do it around her, so to speak. Well, no, you're lying to yourself, and ultimately you're lying to your mate. And then let's just say, like kind of Donna said earlier, if that was a deal breaker, right? You didn't even give them a fair chance to make that decision in the beginning, right? So, but I do definitely think that that's definitely a way where you can quote unquote change, but it can be a negative. In a relationship.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes when
we're talking about balancing self-identity. We're talking about balancing self-identity with change in a relationship. And so if you just join us, we're talking about some of the pros and cons, right? There are times where it's good to change, and then there's times where there isn't. And so we were just recently talking about how some people change, I know what to do and how to do it, but really it's not what they like. So in that case, we're all out line trying to make, but we're acting like we're making the change for the better. That's misleading. So yeah, that could be wrong. Let's take one more of each, man, and then we'll talk about how can we put together, because as you can see, just depending on who you are, there are pros and cons on both sides. Frankie, do you have like one more reason? Let's try to give a strong one on our way out.
Okay.
A good reason or a good time is to change in a relationship.
My fault, background noise, man. Just take the win. Celebrate your wins. And basically, be proud of all the stuff that you've gone through to this point, the growth, the understanding, and how you and your couple came out on the other side, more refreshed. It adds excitement to your relationship, and like I said, it's like a renewal or refreshing atmosphere to know that I don't want to change my partner. I still want to be in love with the woman that I met, but to see that she took the extra step to meet me at this level, or same thing I want to show her that I'm willing to take this extra step to meet her expectations on this need.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. When you do that, it breathes a different aura or energy into that relationship, man, and it's almost like a wonderful thing,
I think that's huge, and that goes so hidden a lot of time in relationships. A lot of time we come from a background in our own singleness to where we just do.
Yeah.
There's no celebration of the little thing. It got to be the major things that we really kind of celebrate, But I do think that is something that could change for the better, is celebrating those small wins. That builds confidence, that builds a togetherness in a relationship. So I think that's a huge change, even within yourself, right? No one has to put up with you in a relationship, in this day and age, you can't leave. And I think a lot of times when you get on the other side of an argument and you guys made it through, or if you messed up and your mate, decided to forgive you and use that empathy and understanding, it may just be so busy just to prove that you changed. Take the time to recognize that. Take time to, hey, I appreciate you, kind of take some time in showing that human element of it. And I think a lot of times we don't do that within ourselves. And so we get into a relationship, and our relationships, they don't feel as appreciated, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, just in my opinion, that's why sometimes some people are reluctant to forgive, because it's like they're thinking more, not just you're going to do it the next time, but how appreciative are you? Like, if I don't see you really being appreciative, is it a big deal? Will you do it again? Right? You kind of putting some thoughts in my head. So I definitely think that's a huge one, man. Being able to support each other and compliment each other, more in a relationship, it definitely bring it together. And then finally, Anybody had anything on that before we move on to the last point before we're making a road to where we're trying to put all this together. And so what I really wanted to make sure that the audience see, I think we initially thought that we had to approach this as an all or none, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't change. Yes, I'm supposed to change, right? But as we can kind of see, hopefully in the conversation, there are pros and cons on both sides. So we'll identify one more change the relationship went as good or not healthy.
Okay, James, I did want to add one thing about it because, again, like you said, it was huge when it comes to recognizing celebrate those wins. That part really goes a long way because sometimes your mate is not even. Sometimes your mate don't even see it as a win. Sometimes when they make subtle changes or they do something that they're doing that just moves, and then the other mate recognizes that, and sometimes that propels the relationship because they realize, oh, you were watching me,
you noticed, yeah.
So, with that being said, and I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, so I just give it 100. You know, like my wife, there'll be a certain shirt. Oh, I like that shirt. I smooth go back about like 3 or 4 more colors in that same style shirt, and then we'll put that shirt on just because I know she said I like that shirt because she noticed. We'll do those type of things, and then I feel better about myself knowing I got something she like.
Yeah,
but you're right about that. I think that's very key. That is, just be thinking about it. That is so unlooked at, so big, but so unnoticed. So I just had to add it in, man. That was a wonderful point you elaborated on.
Right on.
Okay. So do we have
one more con?
One more change that's not good in the relationship.
All right. One more change is not good. A con for that will be codependency. And let me give definition of codependency. Now I read it slow. Codependency is an unhealthy pattern where one person relies excessively on another for emotional support and validation, even if it's at one's own risk. That is so crucial. And that is so important to a relationship where the mate or the person doesn't expect the other person to have any feelings. You should only see me. You should only do me. I don't even want to see your change. I don't want to change because what I want is for you to like and to see only what I see. So a good example that I heard before was there was a gentleman named Oliver. And Oliver was a hard worker. He worked all day. He went and did his job. And Oliver paid all the bills. And I think I talked a little bit on it, but Oliver paid all the bills. When he came home, he expected Sarah to just be appreciative. He paid all the bills. So what he said, go. I really do like the fact that Oliver was a hard worker. That was clear. But what Oliver wanted was he needed Sarah to understand, hey, I'm paying the bills. You should listen to me. You should follow me. So Oliver's happiness was not in the fact of him working hard. He was validating himself off Sarah listening to him because he paid the bills, the recognition. He needed to understand the support from her that I acknowledge you, that you're doing this for me. Now, on the flip side of that, Sarah is not appreciative. Sarah was an outgoing young lady who actually changed because she felt like Oliver needed that, and that would make the relationship work better. So the codependency part was Oliver was only happy long as Sarah was listening to him and doing what he said because he paid the bills. But the bills wasn't a focal point. He needed her almost total submission. Now, on the other end, Sarah began to normalize the fact of let me do this, let me change because Oliver's paying the bills and it makes him happy. And that's the problem right there. Codependency will not allow you to see the other person's pain, the other person's angle, the other person's thought process, anything about the other person, because you're only looking at them for what you are needed. And codependency can go both ways. One person can become so codependent that they don't see anything else and begin to think that's life. So they'll go into another relationship or go into a relationship with that frame of mind, and that's so negative that they think this is life and this should be there. So I think that's huge when dealing with relationships, because we do a lot of times walking and saying, you know what, this is me, I'm doing this, you should like what I'm doing because I'm doing it. We've had friends who came and met people who had jobs and who were doing the work, and they liked that part about him, but then later on down the line, it was like, you know what, I don't really like this now. This wasn't what I thought it was going to be like, and they become dependent on what they first initially saw on that. So I'm sorry, y'all. I was looking out, but James, Frankie, Diana, what y'all think about that on codependency? How serious do you think codependency can be a con for your mate to change?
I think codependency can be detrimental to oneself because it is a self-sacrificing scenario where one person does take on the savior complex of, neglecting all of their needs. Take on whatever the partner needs. Like it's almost as if you're a people pleaser, but in your relationship where that you're pouring into that person, but they're not, pouring back into you. It can also make it to where that you have like this mindset of like you can't live without them in a sense. To where that you're like you kind of it's like a suffocation, as you will, or an addiction, right? To where that it's the end all be all. If you know what I'm saying, this is not your partner. You can't navigate, your way without this person. And I think it's also a very scary con for relationships as well, because I think that's where a lot of times where people do harm, in those scenarios, because they for some reason they feel as if it's either it's either we are together. I'm it's better like crazy.
Stalker vibes. Yeah. You all right.
It's like end all be all to where that like this is it. Like I can't go forward without you being the one helping me get there. You know what I'm saying? So I think that codependency it's quite scary, and it's probably one of the worst cons ever, based off of just because it is an addiction.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm with Diana on that, man. That because it comes back to that last point that you brought up, man. When that codependency kicks in, you just change for just cause you're willing to do anything, because it's almost like you're captivated by this one person, and they do no wrong, and you'll do whatever you can to keep this person, which I say like stalker vibes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So and that leads to bad things too, man. That is codependency is man.
So let me make sure I clarify something. Let me make sure I clarify something for our audience. It is the lack of codependency. Everything you said is correct. It's the lack of codependency. Codependency, that's the balance. That's what we're talking about. So I just want to make sure that
my fault.
Correct. Before we run off, is the lack of that codependency. There's a balance. Independency and interdependency, right? They go hand in hand. And to your point, Dan, when you get too much of either one of them, when I'm so dependent to where it's like I lose myself in you and everything about you, and I got to be around you. Well, okay, that's a problem. I'm never around. I don't care about you. I can do it all by myself. Well, that's a problem. So it's the lack of that codependency. Well, how do we bring this together, right? We can be independent and we can't be interdependent. And we may be very much well still be on some things, but now we have to be codependent. What are those things where we walk hand in hand on and there's a healthy balance, right?
Yeah.
For example, spending time, right? I fundamentally believe you need to spend time with friends to miss each other, to build up a love for each other. But are you that person that's so possessive? You got to be around me 24/7. Got to do everything together. If you're going, I'm going too. Well, I'm going to hang up the fella. I'm going to hang up with my homegirls. There we go again. Trust, effective communication. So it's definitely something to be said when there's a lack of codependency, right? Even think about what Frankie said when he was talking about the benefits of, man, we can help run a budget together, run this household better. There's no codependency. I still want them Jordans. So now the lights off and I got the brand new Jordans on. Well, okay, that's a problem, right? Or if we're in a situation where everything is to have this perfect lifestyle and we really struggling, that's when you're over it. We don't talk about that a lot, right? We got everything looking good and we got the latest car and all this, but inside y'all arguing at each other, mad at each other, can't really do nothing. So it's finding that balance, which brings me to the point in the podcast where I want to get at, right? We've definitely seen some pros and some cons, but how do we create that codependency? How do we balance that independence to where, hey, I can do this for myself, right? And I got this. Like, I'm not going to lose myself in you. Versus that interdependency where, hey, I need the help and the benefit of being in a relationship with it. How do we balance that? And I want to come to Diana because you kind of put this on the table, which I think is a good topic. How do we look at that and how do we find a balance in that?
So you're asking me, how do we find a balance in independency and interdependency? I'm just trying to make sure I'm...
Yeah. Like, how does a relationship build that codependency to where it's not overdone, like you said, to where I just lose myself in you, but then at the same point in time, I'm showing up enough to show that, hey, I want this relationship to work. And yeah, it gets to a point where I do need each other in this relationship to operate at the highest level.
Yeah.
How do we balance that?
Well, I mean, I believe communication. You have to set boundaries, right? And you need to communicate.
I put you on the spot.
Man, you made a lose train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
Keep going.
Well, so like I was saying, I think in order to balance the two and not fall into the realm of codependency, you have to communicate with your mate, but you have to balance what you all do. Exactly. If one person is doing the majority of everything, then that's you're only going to create a codependent relationship, because now they're going to be dependent on you for all of these things that you've done, and they're not doing anything. It's like the provider scenario, right? When the man is paying essentially, you know what I'm saying, all the bills, you know, or providing everything, and the woman's kind of just like, you know, just there. When you falter as the provider, what happens? The woman's like, oh, what do I do? Because, you know, I don't have a job. You have the job. You have the job. You know what I'm saying?
Never had to worry about that.
How do I get through this? You know what I'm saying? So in scenarios as such, you still need to have some type of balance to where that there's your partner needs to be doing something.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that if you did falter, you get what I'm saying, your partner will be able to catch you. And then the codependency piece wouldn't be so much to where that it would build some type of resentment or something, because you created it to where that, okay, if I did falter today or tomorrow, me and my partner would still be good because my partner has other ways to contribute, so that it doesn't fall into the codependency portion of it, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta balance chores in your household, or whatever your person's strengths are. You know what I'm saying? You want to tailor it to those, and and vice versa, so that, you know what I'm saying, it still equals out to some type of balance for the both of you. So.
I would pretty much say the same thing too. It's like where one lacks, the strength of the other one should shine brighter.
Yes.
You know, and vice versa. And also, while you're in these relationships, you know, take the time to learn a few things that you are lacking or weak in. I would equate it to this. A good example that I have is my wife cutting grass. You know what I'm saying? She was like, "Oh, show me how to do this," or "Show me how to do this." And I was like, "Okay, yeah," because I would work midnights or evenings, and then even when I was working evenings, I had part times at midnights, and it would be days where she know I'm coming to go sleep. Well, let me get up and cut the grass, and so she learned how to cut the grass. Same thing with me. When she first started back working in parole, she was going for like a month. So now I got to figure out, hey, where do I go to pick the kids up? Or what do I do to do this? Or what did I do to do that? You know, and don't get me wrong. You know, hey, he probably goes by, even with minuscule stuff like, hey, I can't find this. Or what I do with this shirt, you know, the shirt I wear, you know. But those are the things, and that's what helps, you know, balance out that the changes, you know.
Right. Perfect.
I believe the same thing too about it. You add value to one another by finding out what they need and what's needed before. Knowing that value helps to give you a better understanding of what the relationship is. So then that need becomes a need, and after a while, you don't mind because you know the other mate is covering their part.
Right.
And sometimes that's the biggest thing, because with a man, sometimes it's like, am I still important if I can no longer provide with these hands? Well, when you know that that person is there for you, not for what you just supplied them financially, but for who you are and what you are, then you know what? That's how it is. Because some days I'll be at home and I'm like, man, I don't feel like going to work. And my wife would tell me, she was like, well, you need to go on and go to work. Go and get up. I didn't feel like doing it, but because I knew what she was telling me, I needed that push. Like, okay, let me go on and get up. But because I value her in that enough in that sense, it gave me the pull. Now I've dated some people. You need to go to work. You better shut up. Now, but that's the difference in the two, though, because the value of what she brought to me, I knew that she wasn't telling me just for her benefit. So that's where you talk about that balance is. I can see there's a push and a pull, not just a pull and not just a push. So when you find that right there, it's like a seesaw. It's fun to ride it. I'm no longer afraid of the bad times, because now I got somebody who will walk with me in that place. You know, it is different when no one's there. You know, all you see is tunnel vision. So when it comes to that's a good point. I believe that, you know, finding that balance, like James stated, finding that balance between the two, that way you both can walk together. What you got on that, Jay?
I think sometimes the mistake is made where we try to impose the change instead of us seeing what we need to do to make the change. It's something that I need to change to make this better, because the change comes more genuine. And I think a lot of times that's why I was talking about giving each other that time, going through that trial and error, instead of putting that pressure. Be perfect, understand, cross my T's to dot my I's, know what my last sentence gonna be when I start in the beginning, and you never give each other that chance to change, to learn each other on that level, right? And so to me, when I'm listening to these polarized to the pros and cons, how it resonates within myself. Like how much of that change within myself that I see, or even if I may suggest it, I really buy into it, right? Because just because she wants to make that change, and it could be right, that don't mean I'm just going to turn on a light switch. But I think when it's something that you really sell out for yourself, and you see the why into it, it becomes easier. And that in turn helps your mate see where they can compliment you at. If they don't see it, now they may feel they have to remind you or nudge you. And so now that's where that friction comes in at. So I really think that's the thing at the end of this conversation of balancing self-identity with change in a relationship. Where do you see yourself going in a relationship? Do you guys have real conversation? Right? Again, do you allow your mate to have some grace? Hey, can I come and tell you my faults without it making me a bad person? Can I tell you my areas of opportunity? Can I ask you for help, kind of like what you alluded to, without that knocking me as a man or knocking me as a good woman, so to speak? Do we have those real conversations on that part of the relationship? So that way we can sit back and say, okay, not only just what we have, but okay, this is what we don't have. Okay, if baby girl not good at cooking and I know how to cook, well, guess what? That means I'm gonna probably do a little bit more cooking. That's easy. Yeah. We can move on to something else.
Yeah, seriously.
Baby girl good at finance and I'm over here struggling. You know, man, I ain't never talk. Baby, here's the finance. Like, let's sit down and talk to her. Let me kind of look over your shoulder. Do we have those proactive conversations instead of just throwing people away? And I think that's the thing, to the sake of change. There are some changes that, look, let's be fundamental. This is going to be who I am. And I think we get into trouble also to what we talked about earlier when we try to foot me or just to be with you. Well, unless you Jesus Christ himself, we're going to go about our business. You know what I mean? So I think ultimately that's the key thing. It's not for our mate to make the changes for us. And even when they suggest them to us, we have to make an honest decision. Is that something that I see that I need to be changed? And if not, can I have an honest conversation with my mate, so to speak, and go from there? And then, like we said, also in the end, and I feel like we need to repeat this. We are not talking about anything that's dealing with safety and security.
Exactly.
Right? When it's all said and done, if it's dealing with safety and security, get out of there or get help or do what you got to do to get out of there.
That's true.
Look, you guys, I think this has a great one. I want to take the time at the end of this to apologize for the technical difficulties we were having. It's always something when you have something good, but we're going to try to get on top of those so we own those. And I thank you for those who stayed in and hung with us. Balancing self-identity with change in a relationship, man. This has been a good one. If you guys weren't able to comment during the live, definitely you can go on YouTube. You can go on Facebook. Leave those comments. Say, tell us what you think. Do you think that it's good to change a relationship? Do you think it's bad to change a relationship? And leave us some examples. You know, maybe some things that we overlooked or didn't get a chance here to talk about here today. We definitely want to hear from you. But keep in mind, you can definitely follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and we will be coming to Apple Music Podcast. So in the meantime, thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank my team. If it's not further, man, catch us on next Thursday with another live, and we'll be bringing you another episode of Unfiltered King Podcast, where the goal is where we talk to each other, not at each other.
Peace. Thank you guys for joining.
Already.